Thank you for checking in. Hello, I'm Patrick. I'm joined with Kris.
Hi.
Today we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons and how to play stats differently.
We're doing charisma today.
Charisma is an interesting stat because everybody plays it as the slut stat.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I mean, it is part of the appeal to playing charisma, I think, that people really enjoy, is that you get to be this suave, well-spoken, aristocratic kind of person. But I think that there's more interesting ways to play it than just being the smooth talker.
Yeah, because with campaigns that I've been in, I've seen, like, the highest charismatic, noble. They're charismatic, but in weird ways. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, follow me, because, yeah.
So, I think there's a few different ways you can play charisma that don't require you to be a total NPC whore. And I think that there are more interesting ways to play it than just playing the, hi, I'm a sex bard. And we actually, so we have a campaign going over on the Gamers Cave channel. It's a different channel. It's for the game store that some of us here at Nerd work at.
Yeah.
And during this campaign, we have seen a couple of different charismatic characters. Now, we have seen the sex-based charismatic character. That was in the early parts of this campaign. But later on, we had the introduction of a few new characters, and it really showed 3 different forms of using the charisma stat in a positive and beneficial way. So, I think we're going to talk about it. So, the first way is obviously a non-sexual but very personable individual. So for this, we're going to use the example of Ooh from that D&D Live campaign that we're doing over on the Gamers Cave channel.
And for Ooh, a lot of the things that he does, he isn't, like, completely asexual. He does not care.
He's not. There's nothing about it for him that has to do with sex. But Ooh as a character is very driven, is very well spoken. He's the more approachable of the 3 charisma-based characters. Of the 3, the first one you'd want to talk to is Ooh.
Yeah.
He's very personable, he's very nice, he's very easy to talk to.
He's going to be that person that you know you can confide in.
He is the face of the party, but you can trust him. And he fits the role of the face of the party in that respect that he's very easy to talk to. He is 100% approachable. He's the most approachable person in that entire group.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to play the charisma stat, is to play up to being super approachable without having to dive into the more erotic forms of using the charisma stat. Instead of going that way, be very approachable and just 100% confident in who you are and speak to people kindly. You don't, there are flaws to the character. So, like, we're saying all this, but we know for a fact that the character does have flaws. There is anger and there is pain underneath that. And if you watch the campaign, you'll get to hear some of that. Because that is a character that's very forthcoming with his history, so people understand him better. The next character we're going to talk about, I think, is very interesting, and that would be using Therax as the example. Therax is more of the aristocratic leadership, charisma-based person. So he inspires people with his words. He charges in first. He leads with his, or she now. Therax is now female. Forgot. Therax leads into combat, but also inspires the party with rousing speech and with decisive action, and is able to balance the nobility with the soldier. And it's a very interesting combination. And when it comes to combat scenarios and leadership qualities, this is a great character idea to be able to play at the table. Being able to lead your party with not only decisive action, but with inspiring words is a great thing. And is able to diffuse situations with words, often more frequently than with her blade.
Yeah.
Being able to take the conversation approach. Being able to be a true ruler, a true knight. And just a really interesting character idea to play the high charisma stat. So far we've talked about playing a true face of the party, someone that is very approachable and very easy to talk to. And we've talked about a true leader character, someone that leads with words and actions and
Instead of
And it's-
headstrong in a plate.
Right. Instead of just being a meathead. But there's a third way you can play the charisma stat, in my opinion, that is very interesting, but is can be very difficult to play. And that I am going to the final character, which is the character I actually do play in the live, which is Eam. Eam is not the most eloquently spoken. He's not super approachable.
In fact, if you were to look at him, you'd probably run in fear.
He's a big dude in all black armor with the symbol of Hades, the symbol of the god of death on him. He's
At all times.
and he's but he leads not through word but through action.
Yeah.
If something is wrong, he is the first one to stand up and stand in its way with gusto.
Yeah.
And without expecting anybody to follow him. He's charismatic because he does what's right. Not even if it's hard, but especially when it's hard. The guy's lived a hard life.
Yeah.
And he suffers from survivor's guilt. He's riddled with a depth of emotions. And as a character, it can be difficult to play sometimes. But he's charismatic in regards to what he does. He doesn't require people to, and he speaks to people like he speaks to crowds of people the same way he talks to individuals. It's like it's a one-on-one conversation. He's very good at breaking it down to helping people understand, and he wants to build that understanding for people, but he's not eloquently spoken. He is not a ruler or a knight. He is simply a man trying to do the right thing. And he is not afraid of not only risking his life, but he is not afraid of losing his life for what he believes is the right and just cause. And it inspires people around him. One of the weirdest things about this party is Eam and Ew are best friends. So we have two characters that are very high charisma-based characters that are best friends. And Ew is always the more approachable one, but when things get dicey, while Ew is always there with him, Eam leads that charge, and that's kind of his thing is, I'm not going to speak, I am not going to command or even ask you to follow me. I'm simply going to do what I believe is right, and if that puts my life in danger, at least it's only mine being risked.
Yeah.
That is his philosophy, that is his mentality, and the party has embraced him as a member. If it's the right thing to do, he will put his life into other people's hands, and he'll do the right thing. He'll do what he believes is right, and it's a very difficult character to play at the table because as a charisma-based character, you fall into the trap of having to do a lot of the social stuff. I am very fortunate getting to play Eam in a party with two other very high charisma-based characters that are very good in social settings, giving me the freedom to be able to play a character that is very charismatic, but only through action and not through words or anything else.
And you still somehow end up being the leader.
And that's not anything that I command at the table. That's one of the weird things. If Eam has a plan, this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's it. He gives everybody he listens to everybody, and everybody makes the decision as a group. So it comes off as he's a leader character, but he doesn't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You get to see three different kinds of charismatic-based characters that you can play at the table. Other charisma-based character types that you could play would be, instead of being just one of those three, there are other ways you could play charisma at the table. What if you were taking the idea of being, doing something like Eam and being, more of the action is speaking louder than words? You could play a bard that dances.
Yeah.
And when it comes to speaking, not very good at it. Fumbles over the words, or socially awkward. You can make a socially awkward paladin.
Yeah.
Sure of themselves in action, but not in spoken word. And that could be really interesting at the table. You could take some of these concepts and play them in different character classes and see what you can come up with to have some fun. But ultimately, that's the biggest draw here, is that it's Dungeons and Dragons, and you can kind of create whatever you want.
Most people limit it to you have to follow a specific stereotype whenever it comes to those stats, but you don't. It's creativity over your character.
Right. And so you've gotten to play with all three of these characters. Would you say that my descriptions of them were like pretty fair?
Yeah, they're to a T.
Okay. And this is just one example, and we plan on bringing you guys a little bit more in the future. We're going to talk about probably the strength stat next, and how you can play the strength stat in an interesting way at the table.
But what about the lowest charismatic?
If you're playing a low charisma, you could be you could play someone that thinks that they're socially adept, someone that thinks they're very capable in public settings, but in actuality is just
They literally
really loud or really annoying or
they're just like,
very fidgety.
okay, I'm gonna go talk to this person. I'm gonna make them mine, and then they just sit there and, hey, you look ugly. Date me.
Or another thing is you could play it as very capable of speaking, but not very attractive, which turns people off on them.
Yeah.
Or something like that. You could take the charisma stat and the negative charisma stat and just make it
Fun.
different. So you could be a very attractive individual that is just really bad in social settings. Oh my god, a girl, or oh my god, a boy. Like,
Oh my god, it's a dragon.
yeah, like someone that freaks out at little things and says stupid stuff. You could do something like that and it would be interesting. It's about taking the stat, and you don't have to take just that stat as an example, but typically people with high charisma are going to play more suave people, whereas people with lower charisma are going to play uglier characters. Why not shake it up? What if you have a beautiful character that has a really low charisma that just can't speak to people?
Yeah. He's like, they're just the most shy, but they just look good, and that's all they think they need.
And a lot of that can come down to character individual flaws, which makes this a lot more fun to play at the role-playing table. But these are just our thoughts, and obviously some examples from a campaign that we're both a part of, so it's easy to draw from.
What if you make a low charisma warlock?
You're taking away their ability to do the one thing that they're designed to do. It would be hilarious.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to do something joking, that's a great way to do it, is be bad at the thing you're supposed to be good at. Like a high-strength wizard that just punches people.
Oh, you mean like the characters that I've made?
Yeah, or I've built stupid things in the past too. So make sure that at the end of the day, you're having fun. And until next time, everybody, we here at Nerd In are going to check out. Thank you for checking in.